Okay, can someone just confirm that they can actually see that?
It's whirring around, Craig. Be there in a minute. There we go.
Perfect. Okay. Right, so Brian kindly gave me a wee DM or a week ago and asked us to do a bit of an input on assessment and quality assurance on what we do in Angus. Now, we're not saying that it's the perfect model, as Brian was saying earlier, that every or most local authorities will have different models. So just going to have a quick look at the different methods we in Angus have implemented to ensure consistency this year. Starting to pull on and draw from colleagues' expertise from like different standardisation events at both National 5 and higher, and then any understanding standards events and webinars that have been available and people that have, what they've pulled information from. So who am I? I've seen in the chat or in the members that quite a lot of you I personally know. I started off my career as a NQT at Brecon High School, then moved up to West Hill in Aberdeen, down to Fife, and now I'm currently in Arbroath Academy in Angus. So what have I been involved in? I've been involved in Computing at School Scotland, where I was the secretary and one of the founding members. I was one of the lead teachers of the Plan C project, and I am, well, when we're allowed to, I'm an SQA marker. And then there's some of my details there. So I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm going to go into the nuts and bolts of it. So how have we delivered in Angus, or we plan to deliver the assessment? So each school has carried out both a practical and written assessment for the individual units that they've delivered to date. Each school's got a prelim diet in place. Some took place back in November and December, when they had the luxury to do that, whereas others have been scheduled or had been scheduled for January. Other schools on the return to school, when that may be, we've got planned to carry out further or their prelim exams and assignments as requested. So we as Angus have agreed on using the SQA final exam and the SQA provided assignment as our authority pieces of evidence for both National 5 and higher. The moderation activities that we hold local authority will be based on this evidence as well. And we're going to go into break that down in a little bit more detail. And Leanne later on will break down that process of way back to the November inset to current day. So where do we start where do we start our school moderation process in Angus? So each school has and uses the moderation toolkit. Cross-marking occurs in-house. Dialogue occurs between colleagues during the marking of scripts and following the return to pupils. So basically, I will mark something, my colleague will mark something, we'll discuss it. Or if we're marking it and there's that kind of uncertainty, they will come to me or I will go to them and we'll have that discussion at the time of marking, and we'll have that professional discussion. At that point, as you can see, we've got a discrepancy sheet, which I kindly emailed over to Brian, so that'll be sitting there if anyone would like a copy of it. And we record the actual discrepancies between either what I think I should give a mark for or what my colleagues should have, or even just the kind of the double marking, the cross marking, and we kind of sign it off and put our comments so that if we do get verified, moderated by SQA, they can see that that professional discussion has taken place. So, following the SQA update, the one that happened on the 7th of October regarding the National 5 changes for this session, colleagues were then asked to complete a questionnaire regarding which levels that they were sitting or delivering and what unit choices were they delivering in each school. Now, some of that has been changed slightly. So, for instance, obviously at National 5, it's mandatory to do your software design and development and your computer systems, and then you had your two optional. So some schools were trying to aim to deliver all four. Some were aiming to deliver software, computer systems and databases, and some were looking at the mandatory two and web design. I'm going to pass over to Leanne just briefly And if I can just mute mine, actually I'll just stay quiet. So yeah, Leanne is going to take that a little bit further. Leanne.
Thanks, Craig. So my name's Leanne Wilson, and I've taught in Angus now for the last 16 years. I started off at Webster's High School as a probationer, and then got a job at Moneyfield High School, where I'm currently the PT of technologies. So I'm just going to take you through our process that we went through as a CAG, and then for our in-service days. So starting back, as Craig has said, in December, we looked at putting out a questionnaire to colleagues to gather the information about what, Craig, can you move the slide on, sorry? To put out a questionnaire to colleagues to gather the information about what unit they would be delivering, or optional unit. We also had the foresight to gather the information about higher and advanced higher units. So the main purpose of this was then to gather that information so that we could partner up. So from that, we have created three groupings. We've got 2 trios and 1 pair based on the optional units that were being delivered in Angus, as well as the different programming languages, so that we could support one another when we were doing our moderation process. And then we also produced an assessment timeline that we asked colleagues to complete, and that just indicated when they were hoping to undertake the assignments and their prelim exams. Obviously, that's had to be adjusted due to the current situation. Moving on then to January. The CAG took place at the end of the month, and there was a local authority representative who attended from our virtual school, and they shared with us what the Angus Council overview and what the expectations were for all staff within Angus, so that we would have a proper standardisation model in place. So as a collective of teachers in technologies for business, computing and technical, we decided to hold a standardisation event during our in-service day to look at what the standard would be and to agree on these. Our focus was for this meeting was for the National 5 in the first instance. So in February then, we had because we had such a tight turnaround between when the CAG took place and our in-service day, as a CAG, we are fortunate enough to have representatives from each of the subject areas across Angus. So the 3 PTs that teach computing, we met together and produced a plan for the day. One school in Angus had already completed an exam diet in November, so this school provided 2 exam scripts and 1 assignment from last year that was then shared with the rest of the colleagues. We asked colleagues then, or we gave over the whole day, Angus gave us the whole day on moderation. So what we planned as part of computing was we provided the scripts a week in advance to the meeting. And we asked colleagues to mark the papers and the assignment. We produced a grid that then allowed each colleague to submit the marks for each paper. So I think it's the next slide, please, Craig. So comments then are each, as you can see from the grid that we used, we had 3 grids set up, 1 for each of the scripts and 1 for the assignment, and colleagues' initials at the top for anyone that was taking the National 5. So we then asked them to submit the marks half an hour prior to our meeting to discuss. Before then, I looked through the spreadsheet and was able to indicate using the star, I think you can sort of see it at the side, the questions where there was maybe an anomaly or a difference of opinion, and that then helped to focus our conversations on the day. In the authority, we've also got a couple of representatives that mark for SQA, so their input on the day was invaluable, and we found that very helpful. We put out a feedback questionnaire, and we got extremely positive feedback on the event that we ran, and that people within the authority felt that they had a better understanding of what we were looking for as a group. And then I'll pass you back to Craig for our next steps.
So yeah, as Leanne said, the feedback from this event was very positive. We've scheduled further quality assurance for National 5 using selected SQA briefing papers to give colleagues options to further mark exemplar papers and check against definitive, because obviously if you're a marker, then you only have the opportunity if you get into that experience or into that environment. So what we're trying to do is share that expertise across the authority, not share the confidential information, but share those skills, actually seeing, right, okay, should you give them 3 marks for that question, or should you give it 1? Because when we were going through that activity at local authority level, on 1 or 2 questions, there were some people that gave full marks where actually there should have been 0 marks, or there was a couple of questions that were actually spot on right across the board. So that's what we've scheduled next, is to have a look at these and give colleagues probably about a month to pick and choose. We've picked out tasks from particular scripts that are good talking points where we can have these professional discussions, but give them that opportunity to mark them in their own time, because teacher workloads are crazy at the minute. So it's giving them that length of time that they can go away, they can mark it, they could do 1 or they could do them all. That's entirely up to you or up to them, and then they can come back, submit it, have a look at the definitive marks and see how far or how accurate they are or how far away they are. We're also hoping that we've got in the calendar already that we're going to hopefully have a similar event for hire, potentially prior to May 2021. So before or just after Easter, just kind of before the or end of assignment, kind of beginning of the kind of prelim, that sort of time scale. Partner schools are then going to carry out moderation activities following the exam diet and assignment completion to ensure consistencies of this year's kind of live materials. So as Leanne said, I know that myself at Arbroath Academy, we are teamed up with Arbroath High and Carnoustie. So we will then basically do a 3-way swap, cross mark each other's, have that professional discussion, take this discrepancy sheet and kind of move forward from there as a local authority.